Last time we spoke, we talked about how healing is a radical act of self-love and awareness. And it's actually a bold beginning when you start healing your wounds and the pain that you have been carrying within you and help you rewrite your own story your way. Today, I would like us to dive deeper into the family constellation and hidden places in family constellation, if that is all right with you.
Yeah, that's
But
great.
let's first start with this skepticism behind the whole thing. If I were to explain to someone what the family constellation is about, to someone who has never heard of it, or someone who's skeptical about this stuff, how would we explain it works in a nutshell?
Yeah, the nutshell part is always a
Yeah,
little tricky, but
tricky.
but it is possible. So, the way I say it in short is often it is energy work. So we work with and within an energy field. That is important to know as an intro. And then we're looking mostly at any patterns, anything where a person feels stuck in their lives for whatever reason. Um, what we do then is we look into the family system. So this is systemic work. So we look into the family system and see the dynamics at play there, the entanglements at play there. And very often we realize the person who may have felt really heavy in a certain theme in their life, for example, they're entangled in a pattern. They start seeing that the weight they're carrying is actually, in a lot of the times, not theirs. So then we can, through the systemic work, through the healing movements that are at work in the field, through the work, we can give that weight back to where it actually belongs. And this could be an ancestor. And that's kind of in a nutshell what's happening. It's really about the healing movement. So it is about movement, but it's about the movement of the soul.
So many questions rise up about this very explanation. Let me ask you this first. We go 3 generations back, right? For every family constellation, not beyond, correct?
There are exceptions where we have to go beyond,
Beyond
but
3.
most of the time it stays within about 3 generations, I would say.
Why? Why is that?
Um, because over time, so the system, in short, the way us systemic workers have, tried to understand, again, we can't fully ever understand, and that's okay. But the way I think it works is that the system always wants to balance, always wants to balance. So a person system, and that, I mean, their family system. So that's all their ancestors and people connected to their ancestors that were important to their ancestors. This could be grandfather's first grade love, a person he fought on the battlefield as a foot soldier. Yeah. So people can enter our family system who we're not related to. We can talk about that more after. But
Yes.
let's go back to that image. The system itself always is asking for balance. And that balance is throughout time, some things will, it's just an observation, will take care of themselves. So, not just because, let's say, we have a lot of trauma in our ancestry, even if it's very close to us, it doesn't mean that it necessarily has to come up. It could be that something has already been balanced out by the system itself. Without maybe doing a ton of work around it. That can happen. Of course, the further away that is from us, our generation, the more time it had to do that. So the
The
more
more
time
time.
the more time the system had time to balance something out where there was a great imbalance. And so again, sometimes for whatever reason, it does that on its own. Systemic work, family constellation work, can help in looking at that process specifically and really looking at where is there still a great imbalance? And so that is, again, we work from the issue. We don't work with, let's just be curious and see where there's imbalance in our system. Like, I need an issue. We need an issue to open the constellation. Then the constellation can open around that issue. And in connection to that issue, we see the entanglements, we see the imbalances in the system. And then through the healing movements, we can help balance that. And that's, again, why that is with why it sometimes takes a lot of, why still after a lot of generations, it can show up or it doesn't necessarily have to show up. Both is the case. I've observed both. Yeah. And again, the further away, it had time to balance on its own somehow. And this type of balancing is not always fair, whatever that means for us. Yeah. Fair is human value system, human judgment of what is fair and what is not fair. Fair could be for a system, a descendant has to die of a terminal illness to balance something else. It could be a child has to die at birth to balance something out where there was a great imbalance. It's not about fairness, it's just about balance. And
Oh,
that's just an observation that I see. Mhm.
interesting. Do you think that we carry the pain of our ancestors or the emotional burdens or the emotions that are not ours and we don't understand it in our lives? We just feel a certain way. But when you put that particular person in a family constellation system, then the mystery can be resolved in a way. Do you think this is an accurate observation that we carry our ancestral pain?
To a certain degree, yes. And again, it doesn't mean all of our ancestors, right? It could be if you have siblings that your sibling carries much more, let's say, of the grandmother's side, the maternal grandmother's side, and you carry a lot, for whatever reason, more paternal grandfather's side, right? So again, even that distribution doesn't per se always make sense. It's never like just 50-50, right? It can be, but it doesn't have to be. So it could be that your sibling is totally entangled elsewhere as you are. So certain entanglements are showing up more for you in your life, and you sometimes look at your sibling and are like, why is that not for them the same, right? So that is why really looking at the specific issues, we have to start from there to see what is true for that person and their system. However, of course, the history will be similar. It will be the same with siblings, at least in the system of origin, their
In your
ancestors.
opinion, is there a reason behind this? Do you think that we choose our lineage or our families on a soul level?
Um, I don't know. I like to believe that there's some karmatic thing behind all of it. I do believe in karma for myself, but I don't necessarily bring that into the space. I work with this plane and this incarnation only in constellation work. If you look at just purely family constellation work without any blends or mixes with other modalities, we're working on this particular plane with this particular incarnation of that person.
So somebody comes in with an issue. We have briefly talked about this in previous interview, and I highly encourage everybody who's watching or listening to go revisit that interview. We have touched base on a lot of great material there.
Yeah, it's great.
We bring somebody with an issue to the constellation, and you choose representatives to come represent their family system dynamic. How those people respond to somebody else's family constellation with such deep emotions. Sometimes I have done it myself a lot of times, and this is still a mystery for me. Um,
Yes.
I don't know those people, but respond to their family dynamics in such emotional ways sometimes. How do we explain that part?
I think that's the beauty of us not being able to explain it. I don't know the answer to that either, and I've done this most of my life. The What I can tell you is that it works. I don't know why it works, but I know it works. So what happens for the people who are new to the work, we ask representatives to step into. If somebody brings in an issue, we call this person the seeker, and we may ask other people from the circle, from the workshop, to step in as representatives into their family members' representation. So I might ask, could you be this person's mother? Could you be this person's father? Right. And so what happens is, and that is the mystery of the work, really. And we can only explain it through what we say the knowing field. Um, and what happens is, yeah, that this person starts really taking on sometimes very clear emotions, very clear physical movements, even sometimes posture. Although this is like a soul posture, yeah, it's a little bit more abstract as well sometimes. Of those respective family members, and the person who's the seeker who posed the question, who brought the issue, sometimes says, "Oh my God, this is exactly like my mother. It's exactly like my father," etc. And so that is it just works, and, there I could say what I think, how it works, but I
Please,
I
yes.
I don't know. I also don't know, like, it's just a speculation because that's
There's a
that's
mystery to it. You
that's
cannot.
yeah, I believe that as we are all attending the space together, and again, Family Constellations was, traditionally created in a community setting, so you have people from all walks of life attending the workshop. Most of them don't know each other. And you start immediately while you're in the room together, right even before the work starts, you already are creating a field together, an energy field. And we can observe this for the ones who are a little bit skeptical and are more scientifically driven. There are studies, a lot of studies. If you look, for example, at wolves, right? The wolf pack, like, there is energetically, you can even measure certain energies. Like, if you we all know that if you have a bunch of humans in a space, there is a certain energy level. And what I believe is this very strong energy field starts forming. We usually sit in a circle, so it's in the circle, in the center of the circle, which is where the work takes place. And then from there, I might ground everybody so we're all kind of energetically on a similar page. And then I open the constellation and ask, what is your issue? The person who brought their issue. And then around that, all of a sudden, it's almost like the communal knowledge of the respective family field starts unfolding around this issue. So we do believe that there is a reason why a person is picked for a representation. Like, there is a reason why I ask you to be this person's mother, let's say, or this person's sibling. And I don't know that reason. And I don't know the people at all. I have no idea about their stories. And they come to me after and like, that's exactly my story, or that's exactly my mother's story. And now I understand better. And this is then the part where I say, just come, even if it's not you bringing your issue, it will work for you. It will help you in your own issues and in your own system.
Do you think somebody's language might be a barrier? Do they have to speak the language or they can just be?
I think it goes beyond language. I'm multilingual, so I'm very sensitive towards people whose first language, English is not their first language, etc. So I work a lot with immigrants. I work a lot with people with immigration background, and obviously different mother tongues. I don't think you have to know the language. However, we do work with language. So there will be phrases that I'm giving the person to say that are very constellation phrases, as we say. For example, I am your mother, you are my child. I see you. Yeah, as an example. Or I came here today to honor this ancestor, right? And if I have somebody who doesn't speak a lot of English, either we could have a person who can translate, or they can just say it in their language. That is totally fine. Like, if they understand enough that they can say the phrase and then they can just say it in their own language, that's totally great. And in fact, in constellation, sometimes where the person's first language is not English, I often let the person speak in their mother tongue to their ancestors in the field. Yeah.
So why I noticed this as well that you give us certain things to say.
hmm
Why that? Why is that? Why cannot express whatever? we
Great.
feel on the spot?
That's a great question, and I get this from my students when they first start with me a lot, which makes a lot of sense. So, 2 things. The most important thing is when I just let people kind of go stream of consciousness and just talk, right? What happens is that energetically, the energy disperses. It goes like this, and it's not focused anymore. In order to do long-lasting healing work, which is what we're doing here, you have to give very focused, very clear phrases. And that's why you hear a lot of the phrases being repeated in every constellation, because we have, as systemic workers, as family constellation facilitators, noticed that certain phrases just really cut through and really enter the soul, land on the soul level in a total different way. So if I keep them, these are usually very short, clear phrases that don't have a lot of dot, 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 comma, dot, dot, dot. Yeah. These are very much, I am your father, you are my child. I am your big sister, you're my little sister. I see you. You have a place in our family. Those are short, clear phrases that when we're doing the work, they land on a total different level and the person can really hear them. And that is why they're usually very short, clear phrases and have been known to work well. So yeah, if somebody starts, "I am your child, but I feel like this and this and this," you can already feel the energy goes like this a little bit, and then it can't land anymore. Yeah,
True. That makes a lot of sense.
that is why.
Thank you for explaining that. Do you think one has to believe in the work in order to be healed from it?
No. Actually, funny enough, I don't believe that. I have worked with people who were highly skeptical, who were very surprised by the work. Very, very surprised. I've really worked with pretty much, again, all walks of life, total different clientele, all different backgrounds. And yeah, definitely also a lot of skeptical people, and the majority, like large majority, is usually very surprised when they come in skeptical. However, I do want to say I need in order for us to be able to work, I need some willingness. So if, let's say a partner says, "Oh, I had to drag my partner here to come here," there is so much resistance that it's up to them. They can leave at any given point. Like, I'm not gonna keep anybody, and I don't take it personally. Like, it's fine. If you need to leave, that's totally fine. I always take this example of I once had somebody in the space in a workshop, and like after 5-10 minutes, they got up and were like, "This is too much for me," and they left. And I thought, "Good for you." I wasn't like worried or pissed off or whatever. Or like offended that they left my workshop. I was like, "That is actually great that that's not the place and time right now to work that deeply." And maybe it will be in the future. And there's no judgment. Like, I'm not saying you have to sit through it if it's but I do I believe that it has tremendous benefits if you stay in a room? Yeah, of course I do. I love this work. It's great.
You started this at a very young age. What was your first experience? What astonished you about this work that made you actually pursue it on a deeper level?
Yeah. So I grew up with the work in my house where I grew up in Austria. And my mentor would come to our place at least once a month, I think, or once every 2 months, depending. Later, then it got more, and then it got a little less again. But so I was on a very regular basis. I would have Dr. Peter Urban, my mentor, in the space. And yeah, when I was a young teenager, I was allowed to start going to participate. As a child, they kind of kept me out a little bit because they were like, it's very intense.
Right.
And I'm probably glad that they made that decision. But yeah, still, I was by far the youngest in the space. And so I think I really, I just really kind of started to absorb field work, really what I call field work, like energy field work. And I was already very deeply engaged in performing. Like, I started performing at age 4, and I'm to this day a performing artist. Like, I'm an interdisciplinary artist working with voice and movement and also have a theater background. And so I always was like, I was curious about the different types of energy fields. And this is obviously a healing energy field, and art is a different type of energy field. But I really see myself as what I call a field worker. And so that was just so fascinating to me. And so I think at a very early age, I got really comfortable with stepping in and out of energy fields.
How
And
old
I
were
do,
you, may I ask?
I started at age 14, like to participate, yeah, in the
Participate.
workshops.
So,
Hmm.
is that like the age limit? Is there age limit for the
But no,
participants?
I mean, I would say adult, young, like 18 and up. I would. There are exceptions. Sometimes I have somebody, my 16-year-old daughter, can she come? That's I'll make that decision kind of from my guts. It is always important. It's not for children, this work per se. However, I mean, the healing effect is for children, but the work to have the work done is really, I work with the parents. It always has to be the parents. Yeah. Always keeping the children in mind. And sometimes, as you know, they show up in the field as well, of course. But yeah, I always keep the children with me in soul space as I'm working, but we need to work with the adults. So I would say there's exceptions where like a teenager can be in the space, but I would always err on the side of adults. So maybe like 18 up, or if need be 17 up, it's also probably
Understood.
okay.